Welcome. In part 2 of our conversation, Geshe Lhundup Jinpa reflects on the soul of Buddhism. From the long journey to becoming a Geshe to the quiet rituals of monkhood, he reminds us that peace begins within. I'm Dr. Sarah Allen, and you're on A Little Bit of Magic. Do you consider Tibetan Buddhism a philosophy, a religion, or both?
다 베긴 낭체다 출루기나레 센니 두다다오레 제베 상니가레
출루 다제 religions나 저 대박하는 도야지로다 대박랑 레스나라 예스 마레스나 예스 다 스케치도 도로 다한테 아니지 다 베베게 추디 저도 군제랑 된 군제랑 텐데 도야 따라와 된두게 저 죽다단 된 죽다단 된 도래 다 군제스 있다나 견제로 지나 삼삼답 셈베나 아니 미치 내소 약보시 계제로 신냐 지원나 네디 비게 냠발라 때네 동배님주 만다스 땡도 게임세 코카 남주 땡도 그 동배님주 대당 가야 남주 들다 엠바나 그 셈들 배 가부 중요했어요. 선근섭 디기 남주 뒤도네 나로라 이 포토도 디기 말한자고 미치가 시부지 태어내가서 아니기 민네 치마들 교회에 남주 시비등도 대인도 그 셈들 배 동아 그 시부지살에 그게 실로 남주 될 때는 나왔대요. 선균제들 보고로 하다. 디치네 따지 다 실로를 때네 나로 보투베 제불을 때네 규법에 규표순 소발 때나 마음발에 제부 표순 중 소발 용기요에나 규표순 소발 진바나 마음발에 제부 표순 소발 용기요와 유 독자지 바나 마음발에 제부 독자지 용기요와 어디서 아니 군제 따라 때네 독스포 아니 다 단다 지켜드나 한국 치료를 여행하면은 한국이 통할 때네 군제를 때네 그때는 나가요 살이 감상대 군제도 보고 와 어디야 지 코란이 대바투모 많이 볼 때는 근데 있다나겠다 군제랑 때네 도마도 배 안되지 대바랑 조전 도마
So here, in some ways, it depends upon how you define religion. I mean, if religion is primarily something where it's just based upon faith, where it's like, okay, they said it's like this, so it's like this. They said it's not like this, so it's not like that. If we're just following after that kind of like blind faith without any kind of reasoning, then really Buddhism is not a religion like that, because the importance is placed upon reasoning, upon establishing everything through reason. And faith should be grounded in that kind of reasoning where you actually logically establish things in order to have faith. And so here in Buddhism, really, although there is a concept of faith, it's based upon the kind of reasons that we see. Like if we see someone is smiling and they're laughing and so forth, we can infer based upon what's happening externally, how they are feeling internally, right? We can see certain external signs and say, oh, well, that person is like crying and they're sort of hunched over there, they're suffering. We do this all the time in that we use a particular sign, we could say, or something in order to infer something else, to establish something else. And so really it comes down to establishing that when we do something good, it is going to bring a result of happiness. We can see that in our everyday kind of interactions with others, and based upon that, be able to make certain inferences. And so everything that Buddhism teaches should be verified through that kind of reasoning process, wherein it says that, this is the case. Well, why? We put forth a particular reason in order to establish that. Like if you see my shoes, Katrina's shoes by the door, you can say like, oh, Katrina's here. That's a valid inference based upon those things. And so too, when it comes to things that we can't necessarily directly perceive, we can still make the kind of logical inferences that allow us to establish that. And that's really what faith for Buddhism should be based upon. So I guess it gets back to what the definition of a religion is. But if it's just sort of blind faith, then that's not.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
여러분 지게 대선과 낭백의 출난다 배주 난데들라 지단 출루자 대박 최고야 지게 요래스 임베나 조디 대주 차지요래스 디나네 아니 지 낭백 체릭 세르체 다 tum부숨내 초고래스 간능도 나 어디서 다 시보지 겨울은 부지게 두주름 부시보지 배주 난데라야 제바 제백에 대부 감유실와 근데 어떤다 남바디 조디 세릭선의 균질 텐도 와다 대룹시게 됐다 함소 제바랑 신신도 와다 어디 찬송 대바다 제가지 요에 와다 디스미다디 만실이 뉴어로 와다
So, based upon what His Holiness has talked about, there are certain things that we do have to accept on faith, you could say, or there's a level of practitioner who are really following faith primarily in terms of how they go about practicing and so forth. And then there's the level of engagement with Buddhism that's really connected with what we would say are like philosophical ideas, philosophical tenet schools that establish various things using a kind of inferential reasoning. And similar to that, there's a sort of Buddhist science, particularly Buddhist science of mind. So we could talk about like 3 different kind of levels within this and ways that people could engage with Buddhism. One would be in terms of like a science of the mind, a more deep philosophical level, and then also a kind of faith level where it could also be integrated with the other 2 of those.
Okay. So do you feel, I used to practice Soto Zen Buddhism from Japan, and I was always mesmerized, that I was always fascinated that there was a monk, a Catholic nun that would come and meditate with us, and she would sit in zazen and meditate. And I'm wondering, with Tibetan Buddhism, do you embrace other religions or other faiths that would want to practice the philosophical aspect?
당아마 다 젠다 니혼기 랑저 냠len 제바레 산이 디캅스 기슈기 아니지 수 공갸가 레그레스 얘네 젠기 초속이 곰 사나다디 조다 신에 두려다 오레라 얘네 간속이 줄루라디 줄루 셴바당 대화 책이레베스다 지구 책이레베
빌리난데라베 왜다 아주타야 지기 줄루 상마로와 줄루 가르치게 줄루 되서 가르치고 그랬었나 네 강제체도 지고 그랬었나 줄루 되서 양보 좀 강아지 세게 제도 추지요 또 집어 지켜래다 임베인도 되지 강아지 세상되나 나 달라만다 담만다로와 근데 지금 표주 제발 때는 저인도 근데 도와 메리티 아니 지기 기부 용액의 제도 추지가 임베인도 근데 저거도 늘려다요 열 참만 저거요래 임베인도 다 대기 파초기 아니 랍실랭고에 대 백해치물이 군수의 다 주로 주주 현단에 야과그리요나 아니 남바로시나 남배초래 남주기 촌에게 야 지금 야가 된대나 발렌 chen 근데 chen 배다지 마마다 만자고 전불린 배데 충충 차려서는 되고 그랬다 사실 충도로서는 사실 충도 말에 이나 대화 지에데 배데 타냐고 시골래라고 아마 kumbatjang nyama chige tosala tingsang nyama chigla zambulin alwa kyab kora kyawro ta odinde chen thanya odinde chaende ne phaso be chi koduru chene lekjan lingko ya de be kachin buri.
So I mean, in general, yeah, when we think about religions, they're all methods to alleviate our suffering and give us happiness, right? All of the various traditions in the world, I mean, at least at their best sides, are really religion in the pure sense is something that is a method in order to give us happiness. And people have different kind of needs or different methods that will speak to them. And so in that way, having universal respect or mutual respect for religions is also really important. And we can also see how in this modern world, where it's not exactly right to say it's a smaller world, but in that we have more people and so forth, but it is a smaller world, and that our ability to connect with others is so much greater. And the time that it used to take to like walk, from one place to another, we could go all the way around the world now. And so there's the ability to have those kinds of connections and interactions between religions. And so it's really important to take the advice that is good among traditions. If there's something that is really useful from Christianity, then others like to adopt that, to really bring that into their fold would be useful. So if somebody finds on a personal level that some advice from a tradition is useful, to take that up as something that we have more of an ability to do in the modern age.
Okay. And I understand, Geshe Lhundup, that the title Geshe is very revered. It's the highest academic, right, level of highest title that you can achieve academically as a Tibetan Buddhist, right?
Well, okay, so yeah, there are different schools of Tibetan Buddhism. I just want to give this as the translator. Like, there are different schools, but within this particular school,
and what is the school? The
Gelug school. So the Dalai Lama is, the head of that school in certain ways, or he's one of the highest reincarnated lamas from that school. And Geshe Jinpa is not just a Geshe, he's a Geshe Lharampa. So there's like different degrees within a Geshe degree.
I did not know that.
Yeah.
Okay. How did you earn that title?
Geshe Lharampa Khandis Topsum.
다 Geshe Lharampa 토벨 때 마마 Lharampa 토당다야 딩선 토당 때서 만나서 는 치수 자가 나와라 자바람 붙이야 남들 사바치 때만 나네. 아니 되게 돈에서 Geshe Lharampa 세 토래. 다 근데스 토고르스서나 안저거 자상 다지 길로게 자상 다 대사세라 간데 되서요라 소소한 게 롬니치에 뒤주디라 로 주룩주디 딘데 요래 니 참아 턴차네 신에 다 길로게 대사 체도 참아 루룩체니 양교 베게 루룩체니 대사라야 로 추고 다지 장다르 체니 다지 부딩나서 나면도 슝징하게 돌아야 장다르 양교 14체니 아니 양교도 때로 로 추체고 로 추부터 추서나 신의 Geshe Lharampa 세다 어쩌고 도스래요
디사바기
디치수다 안 자와람 세게 남들 사반난시 자가나 중로와 아마 별이네 Lharampa 당당 티탄 디스트레고 말해.
So here, the route to become a Geshe Lharampa, and there's multiple levels within the Geshe degree.
And then may I ask what separates the Geshe Lharampa?
Lharampa, yeah. So it would be based upon tests and debates that they take. Is also kind of coming from their own desires. So when you're sort of the sharpest in your class and you want to keep pursuing that, there's other sort of positions in a monastery. There's other things in terms of supporting that as a living community that people could do besides being the teacher, the scholar, the kind of high academic. So it's based upon the tests that they give and the debates that they do. So in general, though, the newer system that has been implemented in exile in India will vary slightly from what they had in Tibet before. But basically, they've instituted it His Holiness the Dalai Lama has made it such that at the various monastic seats, as they are called, students will study for about 16 to 17 years this general curriculum. Wow. So usually it's said that it takes a little over 25 years to get the full degree, but then they'll go sort of together, those who have made it through, because you've got to imagine there are some who are like sort of bowing out at certain levels, going into a work position or other kinds of things. And so those that make it to then after those 16, 17 years, they'll go to 6 years where they're sort of all together from the various monastic seats, following which they'll do like a 2-year course at a tantric college in general. So it involves studying, like when they go together for those 6 years, the 5 main texts that cover 5 main sort of topics of study. But it is a process that takes many years. Yeah.
가장 사람생 민자가 중요하죠. 사람생 민자가디 라스타라야 아마 잡아 종가버 침배길 다시 춘주면남세 주로.
네.
다시 춘주면남 가서 벤질로산 추이에게 아니 계시 담자지. 믹삭사버스. 네. 뒤뒤기 라사게 라세 라도와 라사게 춘주면남 값소 아니 계시 담자샤. 디밍라 아니 라람바스 민다. 람 시게 디 갈때 벌써는 흉망고 시버지라 하고게 네 인제기 따지 계시 다 대서 소소네 야가 창으로 그러시네 돼요 담자샤 오라 어디라 계시 라람세 민토야 어디죠
다 모란 엄마니 게셰 디 민토셔레스 라서 아니 민 마레스 게셰 라람바 디 민토셔라. Yeah, so there's like a history behind the story of how it got this name Lharampa, and basically, so there's the title of Geshe, which means like virtuous spiritual friend, and this title of Lharampa has to do with the particular founder of this Gelug sect, Gelama, who during this great prayer festival that he instituted in Tibet, there was another reincarnated lineage called the Panchen Lama, and at that time he gave a particularly spectacular sort of defense, or like it's sort of laying out his arguments. The name of the word is eluding me, but when he did that, it was sort of so spectacular that this was given the name, and it was done in Lhasa. So the first syllable is La, and then Ra is in reference to his knowledge of this expansive knowledge that he had. So basically this title came from a particularly erudite student who then sort of his amazing display then led to this being the name for those that have that kind of high achievement.
How long did it take you? Mm-hmm. How many years did you study?
It took 23 years.
Wow. That's so amazing. That's more than a PhD. That's like having 3 PhDs or something. What is your daily, as a monk, I'm so curious, what does your daily life entail? How many hours do you meditate a day, or what practices, what are your rituals? Do you mind sharing what?
다 디케랑이 콜라레 다 치기 다 타파 카레카레체기오레스 나 남기니마 타파기 제린 다 믹세요 요마
믹소서라다
라라 아니 케랑 카레
나랑게
카레
나랑다베나 다 나랑다고 지면다 다 딩성의 뒤주를 시야라고 시에버리나라 다 뭐도 양다.
Yeah, there's a lot of variation based upon individuals and even within his own time of his life, right? Really? It's not as regimented as some other systems where there's going to be like a set meditation. Like when he was at the monastery, there would have been a certain schedule of how things went versus here. So it's if you want to know for now, we could do that. But
sure, just generally. Generally, we can talk about right now.
다 지른 랑지 중앙대 약가버 상거래 선섬제로와 야 랑지 중앙가버 상상래 아니 드링기 뒤지기라 아니 나랑게 가서 툭툭지시나 팬토지 치고도 아니 팬 그시마도 왜나 너케나 마자 선배 구롱 야보지 쾌 아니 대 구롱 뒤키래 되네 아니 소소 갈라고래 라마가 되네 손주망부 슈 왕망부 녀래 슈요래 대슈인도 대수 템직 다 tomate sungore de ya de kande chego mangbo jore teso ni samlo tenge kande jaba teso sama che tende che ani te chuzu kebal ta la chana chare mazane en tela mar chego wata to samta ni ningong tuzu de ya samsung ya ko do ma jo do hwa jo en de tuzu simida me kongda ya je so so ge 간들 황마타위나 대조체 공부야 직티링 대조되는 거랑게 야가 가르쳐도 삼다 야가 전에 배하고 중시야 삼가고 고모와 매남들자 독자다부터 대시 연구요인데 다 대팅미도 삼겨봐 시작하고 잡체 what in this to hear
So, yeah, again, there is a lot of variation based upon individual, and so, and also, again, time in the life. So, for right now, Geshe is saying that he gets up in the morning and begins by thinking about what an auspicious opportunity it has to have. It is to have this life, and really making the kind of intention for the day of just like, may I be of benefit to others? May I do things that are beneficial for them, helpful for them, and if I'm not able to do that, may I not harm anyone. So really beginning the day with that kind of a motivation and intention that you're going to carry through the day is an important component. And then, so sorry, I slipped between saying I or he. He then has heard a lot of different teachings and has received what we call empowerments that involve certain commitments and saying various prayers and doing kind of meditations. So he'll do those until like breakfast time. If he hasn't finished, he'll continue afterwards. But really during the day, there's different things. They'll go out and say prayers or do classes or various kind of things. So that's a little bit unpredictable. But then coming back again in the evening, finishing the sort of prayers of the day, the various meditations that he's committed to, but then also taking the time to really reflect upon what he's done during the day. Like when you've done good things, to take the time to think about, rejoice in that, acknowledge the good that you have done, and then those times when you haven't, to like acknowledge that as well and really try to make the intention to do differently in the future. So ending the day with that kind of reflection on one's own activities and making a dedication that whatever sort of positive energy you have put out there, that might go toward, in this case, the enlightenment of all sentient beings, but that kind of wrap up of the day.
Okay. And what if when you took your vows as a monk, did you have to separate yourself from your family, from your birth family, or do you still get to see them or be in contact with them?
rabtu jungdu da gumbala de gorobara. Ani da nangmi da kha tha gorobara.
지금 내가 카타스서나 다 지금 왔다 라도 중생도 김매 라도 중세 당번에 라도 중도네랑 김배랑 되게매 라도 중 김바당 가가지고 예스 같이 오라 라도 중해야 되나 김매 라도 중화서 그런 것도 지고 나 김바 소소 김장당 제가 매버서에서는 제가 매었어요 말에 제가 요래 밤도로 분자 토고에 된 토고 이나양 김배 주도도 지에도 되면서 와우다디 개침을 아니 소소 공부할 때나 소소터래 아니 아주 되고 제다 김장도 왔대 미 강바야는다 미 도와 자사도 같이 되나 소소로 아이나양 김배 주도 지에도 당번에 김라도 좀 있을 때 제가 어떻게 했을지
So when you become a monk or you take ordination, you're doing so to sort of renounce the householder life. So in that sense, yeah, you're giving up a family, and generally will go from living at home if you're like a child or something to living in a monastery. And so in that way, you're like separating from the family. The whole purpose of taking ordination is to really get out of that kind of way of living and to be more focused on spiritual practice. But it's not like you're cutting off from the family. Like you can still go see your family, still interact with your family, still, I mean, unless there's other reasons like, international borders. But it's not as though you're totally cut off completely from that family but you're not going to be involved in the sort of affairs of leading a householder life. So yeah, when you take ordination, it's not like you can't see your family anymore. And then as far as where you're going to live, it's not absolutely required that you live in a monastery. You could live in some sort of a cave, some sort of a retreat center. You could live in a city, but again, you're not going to take part in the ordinary kind of life of a householder. Yeah.
타마딜라 가르사나 나랑 차셔봐요. 베스 심플로 되요. 심플로 제거도 백해지도 되게 제가 준사 전에 베스임 르르 차베 준사는 수고에 기쁘대고 용도 네 강하게 삼스트리민도 소소에 디는 신체니기 아니기 딜레 년대냐게 땀 미망보 유시브로 연초로 임베인도 심트 벨르 제거도 같이 보시고도 경세망보 소소 상타요로와 디데도네 심트 벨르시 개시 따지긴 내봐도 진배나로 나서때 독샤네 삼삼 땅 임배나 심게 르르샤요 말와다 나서 도땅다 나서 도땅 나서 수고 나서 요에나 심게 바르르 샤요나 아니 나서 차야에 저거 차고 강아에 대상 요 말. 수분 나서 요약하나 심게 나 생긴 백의 수분을 강아 태버째 나서 도겠다. 코로나 강아 태버째 빼다 되게오시더라. 이 뉴기 근데 그 샘들이 말을 지내게 중앙인배나 샘들을 지나 아니 이 근처 지내 수분 나게 차교에 롱교에 대해서 상황 야구 교를 나서 저거 타야지. 그 샘들은 맞잖아. 차야고 마교 롱야고 마교 나도 와. 어디전 야고요 말했어. 선생님들 제가 때 대체쇼레샤스 타마티 좋지나.
So, just as a last comment, because we have a lot of activity going around, we have the Dalai Lama's birthday coming up, and there's a lot of things happening related to that. So, hopefully they won't be doing that for too much longer. It's okay. It gives me a chance to really practice what he's saying. So, just as a last comment, having a calm mind, having a relaxed mind is really important. That's how Geshe La lives his life and tries to be, in terms of just not allowing the kind of difficulties that we encounter to be exacerbated by our own way of thinking, adding on to that with the way that we are dealing with things. So, when we have some kind of physical illness or some kind of difficulty within our life, to not get caught up and allow our mind to be adding on to the suffering that we are experiencing, but rather by thinking differently about something, like whether we are sick, when we are sick in particular, if we change our mindset, that means that we are able to actually benefit ourselves physically in a way that we are able to heal more quickly, recover from illnesses better, and so forth. And so having that kind of calmness of mind, relaxed state of mind, really, and we use our reasoning in order to get there. Like, it's not like we're just be relaxed, but putting forth the kind of reasonings and recognizing that it is beneficial for our body, that the workings of our body will go more smoothly when our mind is relaxed. This is something that is really important to keep in mind. And so that would be my last comment for everyone. And sorry about the busyness.
That's okay. Thank you so much. And thank you so much. And thank you to both of you. I mean, I really, your message is so profound. And I think, we're living in such a...
I thank you for you.
Oh, thank you. You're a dear friend. But, our world right now is so fractured and so disjointed. And it's so divided. And I feel like your message right now is so important and pertinent to what we're going through, just as a society in general. So thank you for sharing. I hope that your message reaches the far corners of the globe and that it inspires many. So thank you for being with us. And thank you so much, Katrina. I'm so impressed. I'm so impressed with your language abilities. I mean, I speak Spanish and Portuguese, but Tibetan,
it's a lot different.
Yes, it's much different, and it seems much more difficult. So thank you, everyone, and thank you for joining me on A Little Bit of Magic. If you like this story and inspired you, I hope you share it with others, and may you just live a very calm and peaceful life, everyone. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. This is only one part of our sacred conversation. In part 1, Geshe Lhundup Jinpa shares his journey into monkhood, the power of compassion, and what it means to live with clarity and peace. With deep gratitude to Geshe La and to translator Katrina Brooks, who brought his words to life. Bo Gyalo, may peace and freedom always bless Tibet. I'm Dr. Sarah Allen, and you're on A Little Bit of Magic.